Hello everyone and welcome to this year's book cover, your humble host. And today we are going to be discussing Spike the Dragon. And hello doggy, do I have a good talk about Spike. Now, what's special about Spike is his personality, and how difficult it actually is to understand his personality. Because his personality is so diverse, really, because we've seen him grow. Now, when we first saw Spike, he was just Twilight's assistant. Didn't think anything more of him. Nobody ever did. Probably nobody ever would. But, as we've seen throughout the seasons and episodes, he actually has grown. He stumbles along the way, but he is growing nonetheless. And there's a couple stumbles that stand in people's minds very highly, and that is Princess Spike and Spike at your service. Princess Spike, I wouldn't really count as Spike's fault. That's more Cadence's fault than Spike. But that's for the review of the episode. And yeah, this is probably going to focus a lot around Spike at your service, because that's the one a lot of people have an issue with. Now, Spike at your service. What about that? Well, everybody said Spike is incompetent in that episode. He is not acting like himself. He's out of character. No, he's not. Now, here's my reasoning to why. Why is Spike not out of character in this? Well, first off, he's still growing. He's still evolving. He's still getting into his own self. Also, he's worked in a library his whole life. Not making cakes, not doing anything on a farm. He was in a library his entire life. His entire life he was in a library. Because that's where Twilight always was. And well, he is where Twilight is. It's just simple as that. But I guess that's not all that bad, really. Because Twilight is a good mentor. A farmer she is not, but a good mentor she is. But that's for another time. Now, here's another thing that everybody seems to think. Everybody says, Spike's a baby dragon. Technically, he will never get any bigger. He won't. What? You don't believe me? Oh, well then I'll give you a bit of evidence, shall we? The reason Spike will never get any bigger than what he is right now is because he's not like the other dragons. He does not hoard treasures and stuff like that, like other dragons do. Which, according to Sakura, and we have no other evidence to disprove this, is how dragons get bigger. So we can just go on his age, right? Problem with that. First, do we count while he was in the egg, fully grown in the egg? Because we don't know how long that was. Or do we count when he was hatched? If we count to when he was hatched, Twilight was roughly the size of the CMC right now, and I'd say they're about 10, 11 years old, judging by the size of Sweetie Belle. If all the CMC are the same age, that is. I mean, that's assuming all the CMC are the same age, which is not a guarantee. But they're all in the same class, so I figured they'd be all around the same age. Around the same age. I'm not saying exactly the same age, I'm saying around the same age. Which means that, judging by the height of Sweetie Belle, and for who the Sweetie Belle toils, when she was 5 years old, that was a definite figure. It was 5. She was half the height she is now. So, judging by that, correlating some mathematicals, roughly, I'd say she's around 10 years old. And Twilight was roughly the size of Sweetie Belle, when Sweetie Belle is right now. Roughly. I'm not saying exactly, I'm saying roughly. Which would mean Twilight would be around 10 years old when Spike was born. Now, here's where the problem comes in. We don't know how old Twilight is now. That's the problem. Because if you're going on my assumption that Twilight was 10, 11 years old, she'd be like, what, almost in her 20s or something now? Right? roughly. Don't know. I mean, like I said, there's no canon evidence for how old the main six are. We know Fluttershy is older than Pinkie Pie, and we assume that Rarity's the oldest of them all. Assume. Of course, to assume is to make an ass out of you and me. My grandfather taught me that. Just don't question it. If you question it, I'll tell you, but don't question it. Please, just don't question it. But, yeah. Assuming that Twilight is roughly between the age of, because Fluttershy is a year older than Pinkie. That is set in Griffin the Prog. So I would have to say that maybe between Fluttershy and Rarity would be where Twilight is, possibly, judging by the size and stuff like that. So yeah. But that's them. Now, it'd be even harder to figure out Spike because we don't know how old the main six are. Thing is, he was called with dragons that are much bigger than him, but they all were about the same height, same age bracket, I guess. So Spike would be of age in the Dragon Kingdom to become the Dragon Lord. Oh god, my head hurts. That is so much information trying to process at once. Okay. Those are teenage dragons. I think that was established. I don't think so. That those are teenage dragons. Which means Spike is a teenager. As is right now, Spike is a teenager. And Applebloom wasn't born yet, so that means Spike would be older than Applebloom and them. So probably like 18, 19-ish. Again, I can't assess a direct age because there's no information on it. So I'd say around 18, 19-ish, around in that area. Of course, dragons probably age differently from ponies, but just screw that. I don't care about that right now. But Spike was still learning because he didn't know how to bake a cake or that kind of stuff. Yes, he's a competent cook. But they lived in Canterlot. They need a cake, they go get a cake. They don't make the cake. Ponyville, they're making pie. Apple pie, nonetheless. You know, I've never understood the saying, easy as pie, because pie is not easy to make in any way, shape, and or form. It is difficult as hell, and it's just a pain in the ass. All around. And I don't care who you are, it's a pain. Anyhow, shall we continue? Yes, we shall. Yes, we will. All right. Now, here's the thing. To understand Spike, you have to understand everything about him. He lived a sheltered life. He did. No matter what, he lived a sheltered life. He may have gotten hit around a few times by a door or two, but he lived a very sheltered life living with Twilight, because Twilight lived in a library. That's all he had access to was books and such. Which means he's really, really smart, but not experienced in the world. That's why he for service, he had to be a little bit more worldly to understand what was going on. And that's weird. Now, it's not weird that he had to do it, it's weird that he's not more worldly. Of course, he's basically been trained not to. And, I mean, he's strong, he's smart. I mean, did you see that freaking tower he built? Half of those rocks shouldn't have even been standing up, let alone stacked on top of each other. He has to know about a little bit of engineering, which he could have picked up in a book. Ta-da! But he never baked. baked a pie before, so he was still learning how to do that. And when you're learning something, who doesn't make a mess or two? Come on. Anyways, and then people say he's incompetent because he was screwing up so much. Again, maybe it was his first time making it. We don't know. We've never seen him make a pie before, so what would make us think that he'd made a pie before? He always helped Twilight, never helped any of the others, really. Except maybe Rarity, but that's because he's a pincushion. Anyways, let's move on. Now, another thing is his strength. His body itself. We need to discuss his body real quick. Due to the fact that Spike's body is different than the other dragons. Spike is the only dragon we've seen so far that I know of, at least, that has no wings. And that can breathe fire that will burn stuff, but only what he's not concentrating on burning. Because when he concentrates on burning something, but that wouldn't work. See how it's difficult to understand the fire even? Because we're shown when the episode we meet Owlicious, Owl's Well That Ends Well, I believe, is the name of the episode, that he breathes fire into a book, trying to blow off the dust, and the fire burns the book up. Doesn't send it other places, just burns the pages up. Yet parchment, he burns it, and it flies to whoever he's trying to get it to, and it reassembles and it's not burnt. Maybe before he sends something, the parchment has a spell cast on it, so that when it reaches its destination, it reassembles and it's perfect. That's a possibility. But he's the only dragon that can do it, that we've seen. It's weird. It really is. It's really weird trying to understand Spike because he's such a diverse character, and people don't give him the credit he deserves. They really don't. He deserves a lot more credit for what he does. And again, with the Power Ponies thing, he assumed himself as the comic relief. He assumed himself useless, but he wasn't useless. The ponies just didn't need to use him at the time. And that's the thing that gets me. That's the thing that gets me. Because to not feel needed is to feel unuseful. But yet, the moral of the lesson was, even when we don't need you, doesn't mean you're not useful. Well, at least that's how I understood it. I could be completely off base on this moral. But it's like, just because somebody doesn't need you at the moment, doesn't mean you're not, doesn't mean you're useless. But it means you're useless at that moment because they don't need you. I'm thinking way too deep into this. I really am. But yeah, it's just one of those confusing morals. But anyways, let's continue with Spike. Because he thought himself the comic relief. He thought himself useless, without use. But he was with use. He was very, very useful, actually. I mean, yeah, he got them sent there, which tells me that he actually has magic inside of him. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Sorry, I went on to a brain tangent for a second. But a really interesting thing is that when Spike is what people call at his best, he's basically just reacting on instinct. He's not thinking about it. Which a lot of dragons act on instinct and do what they do. But when he's acting on instinct, he doesn't think he's doing anything special. Even though he saved the Crystal Empire twice. Which is interesting. which means he has a very low self-worth. Until we see Secret of My Excess, which he got presents and presents and presents and presents, then he grew and grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. And then, big mean dragon, dude. Ah. Oh god, I can't believe I just did that. But seriously, he was a big, mean-looking dragon that was stealing everything. Like every other dragon, he was acting on his impulses. And his impulses are to take everything. But yet his impulses are also to save, because if it wasn't for a rarity and the gem, he wouldn't have snapped out of it. So, by being with ponies, this completely changed his mindset. Oh wow, I completely went the opposite direction I was thinking I was going to go. Anyways, let's get back to Spike's physics. Now, I have two theories about this. One is the second one is more possible. First theory is that when Twilight used her magic, fused the magic with Spike, thus creating him part pony. That's why he doesn't have wings and stuff like that, because Twilight didn't have wings. That's why he could have magic too. I guess that one's not as strange as I thought it would be. The other one that's in my head is that Twilight actually interrupted the full growing process of the dragon egg. Because I'm thinking that dragon eggs have to hatch, like eggs, not be forced open by magic. Which, wow, that made that look weird. Which is one of the things that's interesting about Spike, because he was forced out of his shell. He was force hatched by a sudden surge of magical energy. Which, actually, I think both were true. You know what? I'll put them both together and say this. That Twilight infused magic into Spike by making him hatch early. Thus meaning Spike can send letters and stuff like that, or Celestia can cast a spell on him, or whatever. But Spike can do whatever he wants to do, really, because he's like a pony. Huh. Interesting. But I digress. So Spike at Your Service really isn't really that bad of an episode anyways, because of the simple fact that he was just learning how to do this stuff. He wanted to be there for Applejack all the time, but he had to learn how to do the stuff still. And people don't understand a learning curve there. I mean, yeah, he was screwing up. He was screwing up a lot, but then again, who doesn't screw up the first time out, right? I know I do. I screw up a lot. But, yeah. That's all I got for that right now. And that is my understanding of Spike the Dragon. Alright. Now, hit that like button if you like it. The first thing you ever see from me, please subscribe. Oh god, I can't believe I'm becoming that. YouTube's making me. I need to. I'm sorry, guys. Anyways, that's my theory on Spike the Dragon. If y'all like it, hit the like button. Help me out a little bit. Subscribe if you haven't. If you like my content. If not, well, sorry. I'll try harder next time. And also, y'all have a wonderful day. And as always, please, I beg of you, don't forget to smile.